Welcome back to
The Hot Pot. I'm Princess May, aka the Princess.
And I'm Tracy, aka the DJ. We have Janice back for part 2 of our conversation.
Hi everyone.
Yeah, for those of you who haven't watched our last episode, make sure to check it out because Janice is on that one as well. But for those who haven't met Janice yet, could you just briefly introduce yourself again?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Janice Chow. I'm a registered dietitian based in the San Francisco Bay Area. And I own my own private practice called The Mindful Chow.
Thanks for joining us again. This episode, we're focusing on body dysmorphia and disordered eating. Could you first just explain what body dysmorphia is?
Yeah, so body dysmorphia is kind of a big word, but it basically means that if you can't help looking or observing a perceived flaw in yourself, then that's what it means. And these behaviors are including, or but not limited to, are you constantly looking in the mirror? Are you constantly thinking how other people think of you, your appearance or your body size? Are you afraid of being in social settings where you think other people would judge you based on your appearance? Some of these behaviors, if you experience them, it's best to seek professional help just to determine whether it is truly disordered.
Yeah, and I think it's common for everyone to have insecurities of some sort. So at what point does it become really mentally unhealthy?
I would say when you feel insecure in general, it's not like then you have a body dysmorphia right away, but it's more like you keep spending a lot of time thinking about that one body part or that one flaw. That is when it gets a little challenging.
Yeah, and body dysmorphia can definitely cause disordered eating. So what constitutes disordered eating?
Yeah, so disordered eating, I want to clarify, disordered eating and eating disorders are two different things. Eating disorders are specific, they have a specific diagnostic criteria. So you will hear, for example, anorexia or bulimia. They have very strict requirements for what constitute an anorexia. But for other different types of eating behaviors that might not be part of that diagnostic criteria, that would be considered as disordered eating. So for example, if you using food to cope with stress or with different types of emotions, if you are if you're obsessively thinking about restricting your intake, binging or purging, that could be part of it as well. In general, just like think about how your body and your appearances may be judged by other people. So that could be also part of the disordered eating as well.
And as a dietitian, how do you go about treating either, body dysmorphia or disordered eating?
Yeah, so the first step is always to normalize the eating process because a lot of people with disordered eating or eating disorders, they don't really know how to eat normally or how a regular meal looks like. So once we introduce the consistency and adequacy into the routine, and when they're more stable physically, then we start to challenge more the mental part of the disordered eating, which includes the internal beliefs about maybe how there's like just one general beauty standard in our society, or challenging the food police in your brain, like why do we label this food as good and bad? Last one, which is very important, is also last step to help normalize that eating process is to also work on strengthening your connection between physical and mental parts of the body. So I mentioned in a previous episode already that make sure to listen to your body cues, including hunger, fullness, satisfaction. Do we feel grounded in our body, like feeling safe in our body? And then can we find other ways other than eating or compensatory exercise to cope with emotions or challenges that comes up in life?
Yeah. Thank you. And it sounds like a lot of intentionality, which I don't know if the average person, even if they don't have, one of these like body dysmorphia or disordered eating, if they don't have that, they might not be as intentional. But I think it also comes down to repairing your relationship with food and also your body. So how do you go about that?
First, kind of build that connection, closer connection between your physical and mental body parts. For example, when we're reteaching someone to learn about hunger and fullness cues, we use like a scale called hunger fullness scale. And sometimes some people might not actually feel the nuances in between. They might just feel, I'm hungry, I'm full, and then that's it. Then we can start introducing, okay, does it feel pleasantly hungry or like unpleasantly hungry, like when it's painful, it's really discomforting. Same with fullness. And then that's how we started to bring more awareness to our bodies and just training to pay more attention to these very subtle cues that might be happening. Other things that we also teach is, maybe there are physical sensations that come up when you're hungry, and then it might show up on different parts of the body. And then with fullness, like we also do other activities like maybe drinking water, and then you can feel your stomach like feeling more full. Can you feel the difference between that? But the key is to kind of build more communication, basically. From some of these communications might be lost, because of the disordered eating or these perceived thoughts. But as we're paying more attention, it hopefully could connect them more closely.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. It's very important to just be mindful of what's happening with our own bodies, and sometimes we do forget what's actually going on when we have kind of these other things happening. Also, like just different cultures have different kind of standards for beauty. How do we make sure we remain body positive?
Oh yeah, that's a great question. I think first it is to build a tight support network for you. So surround yourself with people who are more accepting and less judgmental. It really helps. And then also another thing would be helpful is to start appreciating what your body can do. For example, instead of looking at how, the size of your arms, you can think about, maybe how much weight can I take on, like grocery bags, or, it allow me to actually do stuff, cooking or other things. So appreciate what your body can do. Also kind of calm that noise, the insecure voice that, oh yeah, like my body exists for a reason. It's helping me to live my life. And then the third tip, I would say, start kind of questioning if there's like a little hidden voice in your head. Start questioning what it's talking about. And then instead of spending time on just thinking about your body, maybe ask yourself, is it helpful for me now to hate my body or hate this part of my body? And then if this happens to my friend, like one of my best friends, like would I say the same stuff to her? Probably not. So be more compassionate, for yourself.
Yeah, I love that. And I feel like there's such a therapeutic part of being a dietitian as well. You also have to address people's mental health. And I know you mentioned that surrounding yourself with positive people is really important to uphold a good body image. But unfortunately, that's not always possible with some relatives. I know I've had aunties you look a little fatter. And it's it's just a cultural norm. Yeah. But how do we have, conversations with people, to respect each other's own body and uniqueness, or maybe distancing ourselves from those types of comments?
So great question. I get the same from my families as well. Every time I see them, they don't even say hello. They just say, oh, you look, there's the word, the fat. And then, I think it's very frustrating. It could be very frustrating for a lot of people who are just kind of working through their own relationship with their body and food, and then they got thrown into a family or a gathering where there could be people that don't really understand these concepts, or they have their own kind of internal conflict that they have to go through. And just know that what their thoughts are usually rooted from their upbringing, their background. Back in my parents' generation, they probably don't know how body image impact other people and how the way we talk to each other is very impactful, right? But they don't really pay attention to that in their time. So one thing I think it will be really helpful if you're going to such a scenario or situation is to actually rehearse ahead of time. You know your family, you kind of know your friends, what they will say, right? So go through your head like how you might want to respond. I have clients that say, I don't want to talk about somebody's like auntie, whoever's like weight. Can we, just switch topic? Some people would just feel more comfortable, like, okay, I'm not going to respond and just leave the conversation. And that's fine too. I think everyone just have their own way to deal with the situation. And lastly, if someone is very defensive of what you said, like let's say, oh, why don't you want me to talk about this? Maybe explain to them why this is bothering you and how you feel. Especially for family members, sometimes it's helpful for them to know how you feel. Hey, this is making me feel very uncomfortable. Can we just switch topic? Or if they want to know more about why, then that's a good time to talk about, okay, can we be more mindful of like someone's appearance or weight does not determine their health, or, you can ask about other stuff, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. These are very helpful tips and definitely something to think about as well, and great advice that you're giving to us and everyone else kind of watching. And just going off of like the sessions that you offer, we know that you also offer them virtually. How have those virtual sessions been? Yeah,
so virtual sessions actually have been really wonderful in my experience. So unlike a physician, I don't have to do a lot of physical assessments. So most of my 95% of my work could be done just through talking. So that really helps with virtual. It actually saves my client a lot of time, so no one has to commute, find parking, and then like wait in the lobby for like several minutes before someone calls you in. When you log on, then you log on, and then when you're done with the hour, you can go back to work or you can do other stuff. So it has been easier. And also it allows me to reach more people as well. For example, if I only have an in-person practice here in the Bay Area, I wouldn't have clients that are in Southern California. And some of my clients are in other parts of the state, or like in other countries as well. So that virtual option makes it easier for everyone. And quality of care is the same in my opinion.
And overall, do you feel like the dietitian community has an awareness of, cultural things going on around AA and HPI communities?
Yeah, well, great question, because in the US, about 80% of registered dietitians are Caucasians. Only about 3 to 4% are dietitians of Asian Pacific Islander and Native Hawaiian descent. So we're still in the minority in terms of how we work with our clients. And then we see more demand, right, growing in the country, and there's more focus on providing culturally competent care. But this disproportionately low, with the ratio like disproportionately low, it's harder there's just a lot of work have to be done to educate our white providers about how to be sensitive to cultures, and then what other issues that our communities go through. So intergenerational trauma, even just doing more specific research and organize the data a little bit better. Because right now, a lot of the AAPI data, they're all lumped together. But then different ethnicity or different cultural background have a lot of differences in terms of the health outcomes or the conditions that impact them. But right now, the research is all over the place. But a lot of providers don't really know.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Great, thank you so much. I also want to just give you an opportunity again to share any like words of advice or closing thoughts before we end.
Thank you for inviting me here again, and I hope to just shed some light to thinking about body image and eating in general. Knowing that, you know, eating disorders might not affect like most people, but then how you behave or how you talk about food or weight, appearance impacts other people. And let's focus more on like things that we accomplish, things we achieve, or support each other through like our like sadness, like our most challenging moments. Those I think are trump over everything that are more like superficial. So hopefully, you know, if you want to know more about this area, feel free to reach out to me.
Yeah, thank you so much. And thank you all for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye.